Welcome back to Fresh Outlook, everyone. I'm Mia Toski. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau estimates that national student debt was approaching $1.2 trillion this year. That's a 20% jump from 2011. Students are now majoring in debt, and it is leading to a rise in bankruptcy as well. Here's more on that story.
The cost of a college education continues to increase at a rate of 2 to 3 times the overall rate of inflation, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. College costs are even rising faster than the cost of medical care. Today, more than 65% of college seniors have student loan debt with an average of nearly $30,000. College debt continues to increase at a rate of 6% each year. Since 1982, a typical family income increased by 147%, more than inflation, but significantly behind the huge increase in college costs. Economists predict the cost of attending state colleges will soar to $120,000 by 2015. Currently, over $40 billion in student loan debt has forced many former students into financial bondage or even bankruptcy. Over the decade from 2002 to 2012 to 13, the total number of federal student loan borrowers increased by 69%, where college costs have been rising roughly at a rate of 7% per year. At this pace, it will surpass $1 trillion in a few years. So, what can be done?
Dee Benke and Jackie Guzda continue our discussions. We are also joined by Helene Naftali. She's a psychotherapist, a financial advisor, and author of Own Your Zone. Own Your Zone. Let me say that again. Thanks for coming on. We have a couple of newbies here this week. All right. Well, we are talking about college debt, and we just heard that story. Helene, if you can tell me, I know you've been working with a lot of students, but just talk to us. How bad is it out there?
It's evolving. It's getting worse. It's a real big challenge. Right now, we're seeing debt for about 60% to 70%. Actually, I read today of students have at least $29,000 in debt.
I have to tell you, I had like a $5,000 credit card once, and I couldn't sleep at night. I can't imagine coming out of school with like nearly $30,000 in debt. Now, I want to talk to Dee. I know you have a personal story of your journey. If you can just share it with us and tell us what you think about all this.
Yeah, big debt. And what happens is when you go to school, and I went to a small private school, it's expensive. And at the time, I thought, okay, I can do this, but you don't realize. I really think kids need to be educated whenever they go in, and their parents need to really look at this because there's a difference between federal loans, private loans, how they are structured, and at the end you realize, my goodness, I am really in debt here. And as you're going in, you don't realize that. And college may not even be for everybody. There's maybe some other sort of different specialized skill sets and so forth. But I just think that education needs to be there early on, because I ended up with all this debt I didn't realize I was going to have.
Well, speaking of education and earlier on, Helene, you actually do work with students to, what you say, identify their zone. Explain what you're doing right now.
Okay, we're trying to help students as early on as possible to figure out who they are, to do the deeper self-exploration early, so that they can have the tools, that they can have the confidence and the clarity to go ahead and make the most of their college career and then ultimately their futures.
And you were telling me at the break earlier as well that a lot of the college kids are changing majors because they don't know what they want to do, and that's adding to this debt load.
Yes, we've seen the statistics say that somewhere between 60% of students are going to undergraduate college for 5 and now 6 years.
And that's just adding more to that bill. Yes. Jackie, you're a college professor. When you talk to your students, do you find that they're more stressed these days?
Well, you know what it is that you've got the middle class of students, I believe, that is more stressed than the others. The ones whose parents are paying the bill, they're not taking their education seriously. And then you've got the lower end who are getting grants to go through the whole thing, and they're not paying anything, so they're not serious about it. But I've got kids in the middle who are falling asleep in class because they're up all night working. I've got kids that are working full time that are taking a maximum amount of courses. I mean, and it's crazy. And Dee Dee's right. You don't realize that it's called a loan. And you say, oh, it's a loan. Great, that takes care of 30,000.
It's going to be 100 years from now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not.
And
it's really not.
And when you say 30,000, that's low. I have kids that come out with $50,000, $80,000 in debt.
Yes.
Well, and I want to talk, Helene, you have the book here, it's Own Your Zone, but you also have a program. Talk to me about exactly, I know this is the first step to your program, but talk to me about your program overall and identifying a student's skill set so they don't get into this debt.
Yeah, see, what we have found is that we're concerned that students are stressed, like you were saying, so that they're going into college without any kind of clarity about who they are. They're just going from one thing into the next thing into the next thing. And we're trying to get students to take a step back, to see who they are. So we've created a program or series of programs and processes so they could find out what is their unique lens. How do they contribute to the world differently than everybody else? What is it that they're the most passionate about? Things of that nature, their value system, at least at an early age, to start getting a sense of who they are.
So it's not just their likes, it's a series of several different things?
Yes, what we try to do, we call it owning your zone or your one true zone, which is the intersection, really, of your unique lens, which I call your gift, which is the way you naturally contribute to the world. And that's something that you have from when you're born, from when you're very young. Try to identify that, and we work really hard to get them. They experience an aha moment when that changes everything for them, and it starts increasing their confidence about who they really are. When you match that with the things they're interested in, the things that they may value, things that they may be beginning to be concerned about in the world, and you put this together and you find that sweet spot, that changes things for them so they could go into college with more focus and intentionality.
And I think it's a great, I'm just going to tell one story. My girlfriend's daughter wanted to be a veterinarian and loved animals, was her passion to work with animals, got to college, and all of a sudden she flunked her biology classes.
Ooh, that's a problem if you want to be a vet.
and there's a lot of kids that go there because, so it's not just identifying the likes, but also what they're good at. Now,
Absolutely.
I know there's a lot of self-help books out there, and I know you have a book which is One Step, but what makes your program different or more unique, if you will?
Okay, accountability, that's one key thing. Two things is finding that unique gift that I mentioned earlier, and the other thing is accountability. And I was just thinking about it this morning. I took a spin class, and I'm in the spin class, and I've spun, I guess if that's the word, many, many, many times. I'm in the class, and they have a monitor there. And on the monitor, they tell you how fast you're going and how hard, they call it, I think, the Turk or the twerk, how fast you're going. And then on top of that, they have an instructor and a coach. And I found myself working so much harder just first looking at the monitor. And then when the coach was saying, come on, you could do more, you could do more. What we believe is an accountability. You can read the books about how to figure out what your interests are or some of your passions, things like that. But we have found increasing the chances for success and follow through are substantially higher when students have accountability to someone that cares about them, that supports them, that gets to know who they are.
And you called it your GPS. Could you tell me that little expression again?
Yeah, so we call it navigating from college to career, having your GPS. We like to consider ourselves their GPS.
Yeah,
Jackie, I know you wanted to jump in here.
Yeah, I wanted to say something about focus, because I think that a student should focus on gaining critical thinking skills. That is what is taught in every class, irregardless of the subject. Now, most of my students today, and I've been teaching on a college level for 15 years, have changed that over to getting a good job. And I don't think that's what college is about, and it makes students unmotivated. It makes them do anything they can to get a good grade, be it cheating, be it downloading those papers, being it threatening me.
You know, what you're saying is really valuable. What we think about is helping the students to find out what transferable skills can be used in society later on. So learning that critical thinking skill is one very key piece of the puzzle. Learning who they are and learning the different skills that can transfer, because the careers today are not going to be necessarily the careers in 5 or 10 or 20 years. It's evolving. The whole process is evolving. So if you get to know who you are and the key skills that you need to know just in life, and you put these pieces together, you'll be able to navigate a hell of a lot better.
And I know you also said, Helene, that it was also, there was a problem because the kids are so keyed into their cell phones and they do everything so quickly, so they don't take the time to get to know themselves.
It's a big concern. We all know, we see it in the, I think they call them millennials, but the cell phone distraction.
Oh my God, I can't get it out of their hands in class.
It's like,
I'm guilty. I always
Most of
have
us
some
are.
electronic, in my hand. But, I think that what you're saying is good, and if there was a class taught in high school to make you focus and really make it an actual class, or perhaps orientation, it would make a big, big difference.
But they'd have to put down the cell phone while the class
That's
is going
true.
on.
That's true.
See, what you're saying makes a lot of sense, except for one piece of the puzzle. When they're in high school, because of the pressure that the kids have to get into a college, they don't feel they have the time or the luxury or the comfort to take that step back, because they just want to get into there's a process to get into the college. There's a process where they hire someone or they get the support from different places. It's all the focus. They get into college and then they're just kind of left on their own to try to figure it out.
Ladies, I'm going to have to, that is our cue to cut this off, because we're going to go to the next segment. Helene, Naftali from Own Your Zone, Jackie and Dee Dee, stick around. We will be right back, everyone. The lightning round is next.